We are back 5-0, and I don't mean the cops. I'm talking 5-0, 50th episode, and we got our special guest with us, Kevin. I mean, I can't even imagine a better way to celebrate the 50th. And also, yeah, and then our first 1 year anniversary as well by the time this comes out. So that's pretty cool.
Excellent.
Yeah, how cool Kevin, is that? Like when Sean mentioned that, I went back and looked at the date of when this will air. It is 1 day away from exactly the same date that we started in 2024, and it's our 50th episode. That's pretty badass.
Good stuff.
Pretty badass. Yep. And we thought no better way to celebrate this than have Kevin on. We have a good topic today. We are going to talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which by the end of this, after we dismantle it to a degree, I think we may call it the Pop Music Hall of Fame or something else. But we get the opportunity. This is like being back in school when your teacher or professor would say, hey, you get to run the company for a day, Acme Inc., whatever, and make all the decisions. That's who we are for the next 30 to 45 minutes or whatever it is. We're going to make some decisions about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is not intended to be argumentative necessarily, but there are some head scratchers, guys. We've all been looking at the list of who's in it and who's not in it, and we're going to jump in a second, but there are some real head scratchers.
Right. So how do we want to go into this? Let's first talk about
first.
Go ahead.
I have to show a display first. Sorry. I'm going to hold this up.
Oh, back in.
Love it.
You realize the relevance, right?
Absolutely.
I'm so excited. My childhood hero, Pete Rose.
What is that, by the way? Is that just a Coke can? What is it?
It's crazy. This is an RC Cola can from the 70s when I've had this. I think it came out in like 77.
Yep.
Pretty cool. I've got a whole collection of them back in the storage room. But I had this out. My son actually pulled this out the other day. He's like, oh, Dad, you have and this was the day before it was announced. It was just kind of weird. He pulled this out and said, oh, wow, you have a Pete Rose RC Cola can. And then the next day I heard the news that he was back in. So I'm excited. So we're going to talk about doing the same thing. We're going to bring some people in and remove some people from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So to your point, Craig,
right?
How are we going to do this? Well, I think the theme of this is probably going to be a little confusing at times, but that's okay because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a little bit confusing. But I think we'll decide the order and we'll go who's out first. We got to clear people out first before we put people in. So we'll go around the horn. Craig, do you want to pick a number? Who goes first, second, third? How do you want to do that?
So I'll do a random number generator that I've been using for our list that we do on Schizophrenic Music. We'll do just 1 to 20. And what we'll do is the closest to the number that selected goes first and the furthest away goes last. I do want to start things off by just a general discussion of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Because for me, my criteria is Sean and I talked about this off camera. And we talked about the idea of doing this, and a lot of times our big beef with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the name Rock and Roll.
Right.
That's the biggest problem. If they were to rename the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame the Music Hall of Fame, then so much of this controversy to me goes away.
Right.
Completely goes away. I am eliminating my personal picks of artists going in and coming out. I'm eliminating anything that I feel like is a genre that's outside of rock and roll. So even though it could be an artist that is epic in stature, legendary, but they're not rock and roll, I'm not going to take them out based off that premise. I'm strictly going for what I thought was something in that rock and roll era. So anyway, that's my criteria. If you guys want to expand upon that, feel free. If you want to dive right in.
Yeah. Go for it, Kevin.
That's a tough, because that's if you like, if I go, what I think of as rock and roll and rock and roll only, then my outs are really, really easy. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, because there's like, nope, not rock and roll, out. But it's I don't know.
It's tricky.
I don't have it's weird, because I know people like, well, why don't they just make a blah blah Hall of Fame? That's where they belong, but like, they've come out with this, like, it's more about the spirit of rock and roll and what rock and roll means, not necessarily,
I think
the rock and roll genre.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with some of the people that, and it seems like it's happened recently. I say recently, but more recently than when they first started, right?
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with what they've done as long as they're consistent. My problem with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is not so much like a genre that's not rock and roll, but it's like the inconsistencies. There's no rhyme, no reason why they'll say, "Oh, this person," and it's like, what? It's just like a crazy.
Yeah.
It's the inconsistencies. If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna open it up to other genres, open it up to genres. Like they've opened it up to other genres, but excluded some genres. It's like, well, why is that not
rebrand it? To me, rebrand it.
Right.
I think, and not to take
Popular Music Hall of Fame. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah,
because I don't expect them to like all of a sudden put in classical artists or something like that, right?
Exactly.
But,
Beethoven,
right? But
Right.
If it's just.
But at the same token, I guess this is it's not just the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for me. I've said this numerous times to people, and most people agree about Jazz Fest in New Orleans. It's not jazz. It's not jazz. We are losing the meaning. We might as well throw the definition of genres out the door because it's not jazz. If you say that Dave Matthews and Better Than Ezra are the headliners, which at one point those were two of the headliners of Jazz Fest, you've completely lost the meaning of jazz. And a buddy of mine's like, he's been going to it for years. He's from that area. And he goes, "You missed the point." I go, "No, they missed the point. It's not jazz. You can say it's the spirit of jazz all you want. That's crap. That's what's wrong with jazz right now. And that's why jazz isn't popular, because people don't know what jazz is."
Right. But there's part of like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's like, this could be a slippery slope. Could be like could take me down but all the artists, not all of them, but most of the artists they were putting in. I don't speak for everyone because I don't know everybody's opinion, but you didn't hear a lot of flack until certain artists started getting in. And I'm not throwing a card, but I'm saying there's people have problems with a couple genres, and all of a sudden it's not rock. And and I'm not talking about just one genre. And we'll expand on this, but we can go deeper into it. But nobody had a problem when Al Green got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1995. Al Green's not a rock and roll artist, right? He's soul, right? If you got it, but nobody had a problem with that.
Exactly.
But like when Madonna got in, she's not rock and roll. That's terrible. Like, but she's as much. It's like how you like.
Exactly.
Miles Davis is in there as an early influence or whatever, but Miles Davis definitely isn't rock and roll. But does he embody the spirit of rock and roll? Did he influence all these people? Right. So it's like. You can't. My thing is like it's very, and we reserve this right on Schizophrenic Music all the time to be hypocrites, but like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame seems very
hypocritical,
right?
Yeah, there's a couple. So, and we'll jump into it here. I took a couple of. I really thought back through my list, especially for the outs, and I tried to think of it very openly to go, okay, is there anything about this artist at all that's rock and roll? I mean, because I put my blinders on and said, this is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right.
And so for Al Green, I've got no issue with Al Green being Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I really don't, because
I just picked him out of one person I knew wasn't.
Yeah. But to me, soul music, R&B, that gave birth to a lot of, to what is rock and roll. And but then you go into latter day hip hop, there's nothing about that I'm not saying it hasn't influenced rock, that rock doesn't now have that in there, but it's not rock and roll. And maybe that's confusing, but I say, all right, let's go through our list, because at the end of this, I have a separate list. I didn't even tell you all about this, but we're going to do out. All five of us will pick an out. Mm-hmm. And if it's already been picked, you're going to have to pick another one, because we can't double up on an out, right? So I've got a list of more than five just in case. Yep. And then we're all going to pick five ends, and we can't duplicate that either. At the end of the outs, we're going to do one fun thing, which is we get a chance to outvote someone. So if I say one that you both disagree with, you get one chance to strike me, and that's cool. Awesome. But at the very end, I'm going to do something that for lack of a better phrase I'm calling if then, because I've got a list of artists that I'm not disputing they shouldn't be in, but I'm saying if they're in, then why isn't this one in? So I've got an if, name artist, then name artist. So I've got a list of 7 or 8 of those that I'd like to do at the very end.
Okay.
So
all right. So
with that, all right, Greg,
let's do this real quick. I'm going to share my screen. I want you guys to go ahead. Let's go ahead and pick a number. Hold on just one sec. So for those of you on YouTube, you will see this. You guys see my screen?
That is the same.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
so
readers on.
All right. So pick a number between 1 and 20.
8.
Okay. Sean?
3.
All right. I'm going to go 11. All right. Here we go. Generate. 17. All right. So I guess it's me, Kevin, and then Sean. Now, I'm not going to confuse things. We could do it this way where I go first, he goes second, and then you go again, and then he goes, and then I
serpentine or what? I really want to do it, but
we'll just go in order. We'll just go in order. All right,
whatever.
All right, so we're doing outs. I think my first one's going to be pretty controversial too, and I'm a fan of this artist, but I don't agree with him being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that's Bill Haley.
Oh. What?
Oh. All right, Kevin, hold on that.
I love Bill Haley in the comments, but I'm sorry. See you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile. There's not.
What's your reasoning?
I just don't see him as somebody that is that truly influential. I bet if you ask the majority of the people out there today, they couldn't tell you who Bill Haley was, and if they did know his name, they couldn't tell you what he sang. That's just that. And this comes from a fan. At one point, I had maybe 5-6 different CDs. I bought imports of his stuff. I love his stuff, but I just don't think it's something that's that influential. So I went in first with a hot take. So
yeah, this episode is officially over. By the way, we're just
right. I'm gonna piss you off. What can I piss Sean
That's
off
totally cool. You said you got one too, so I'm looking forward to seeing yours.
Yeah, I love this. And by the way, for anyone listening, watching, no one's going to agree with everything we say here. It's going to be a little bit controversial in terms of some of our picks that I can't believe you would say that person, but that's the fun of this. So I love that you did one that already I'm not fully on board with. Love it.
All right, Kevin.
All right. So it all depends on that's again, back to the inconsistencies. It's like what makes somebody worthy of being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because they started to put were they influential or were they popular, or did they sell lots and lots of copies, or are they still known? There's lots of people that didn't sell an album. I mean, didn't sell very many. The people are like, why aren't they in there? But it's like because they're so influential. But then, so you got to where's it draw the line? But then I think there's people in there, and it pains me. In my list of outs, I didn't pick the traditional outs of just picking hip hop and pop people that I don't think is rock and roll. I'm thinking people that maybe don't deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they were just put in for, I don't want to say the wrong reason. I'll go see that there's a couple that just pain me to say, but I don't think Ritchie Valens belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh,
because I think that I think he was probably great, but maybe he was the first, I don't know, because I wasn't alive really at the time, but was he that influential? He was maybe the first Latin rock and roll star, but he's more famous because he died in a plane crash than really because of his music. If they wouldn't have come out with La Bamba, the movie, majority of the world wouldn't know who Ritchie Valens is. They might know the song La Bamba.
True.
But besides that, they don't.
I will counter that with, I think he deserves to be in more than Bill Haley, just because I think he had potential. His life was cut short, and he was one of the first Latino.
I'll give it up. That's why I don't want to, because like
I know. I get where you're coming
from.
from.
Latin, I like that.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a problem. I'm not trying to be wishy-washy. I don't have a problem with anybody that's actually in there. I have problems with people that aren't in there. Is my biggest problem.
Yeah, that's going to be my biggest passion as well. All right, I'm going to go to mine, and I think I probably say what both of you are thinking. Even for the ones that I mentioned here, that some of them may be just because I just flat out say it's not rock and roll. It shouldn't be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Does not mean I don't love them. Right. And I've got artists on here that I've listened to in the last week that I will tell you should not be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Number one for me, though, is going to blow your mind. And there may be emails that come to us saying what an idiot I am. I do not believe that Lou Reed should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't think he did enough as a solo artist. I think he did enough with Velvet Underground, but I do not think that he did enough as a solo artist to warrant. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is for a very special group of people. And when I look at the list of people that are not in, and Lou Reed is in as a solo artist, for me, he doesn't deserve it. Sorry.
I'll say I'm honestly not a huge fan personally. I do like some Velvet Underground stuff, but it's very sparing. So I'm not in that boat, but I can say there's so many people that are influenced by him, and not just Velvet Underground. They're influenced by a lot of what he did. I mean, just to rock and roll the record alone, but I'm not a huge fan, so I don't have a huge beef with that, but I can see why he would be in just based off of it.
Yeah. Yep.
I
wanted to start controversial
with taking him out. I probably didn't even see him. I didn't maybe study the list as much, but I kind of agree. I love Lou. I don't know if I say love, but I like Lou Reed a lot. I like his solo stuff.
Yeah.
Velvet Underground, I understand why they're there, sometimes I can take or leave Velvet Underground. But I don't know if he really has done. There's other solo artists that are not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when Lou Reed is, that you're like,
right.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Lou Reed got in before Joe Cocker got in seems really wrong to me, right? He just got in last year or something, or this year?
2024. Mind blowing.
I think Cocker's downside was the fact that he didn't write anything, though. He was a singer.
Right. He was an interpreter.
But a hell of a singer.
Right.
A hell of an interpreter.
So
was Elvis Presley.
That's why it's such a cool thing to argue about, or fun.
So was Elvis Presley. Elvis didn't write anything. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I don't have a.
All right.
I think my reasoning. Am I next, or no? You're next again. Go ahead.
Craig's up next.
All right,
I'm making my list.
He's gonna say the Beatles.
I've got another controversial. You guys are probably going to veto a lot of mine. All right, number 2 for me is the Eurythmics.
I can't argue that, and we'll move fastly through some of these just so we don't get hung up. But I have no argument with that. In fact,
I like the Eurythmics, I can't totally argue, because the thing is, out of that genre and that time frame, do they deserve it more than a whole shitload of other people in that same kind of genre? Right.
I like them, and I love Annie Lennox. I
think they slipped in there really early, not earlier than I would have imagined as well.
Yeah, for sure.
That is a great one, Craig. I didn't even have that on my list. I'm 100% in agreement with you. Why are they in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Especially when we're going to talk later about some of the ones that aren't in, that are comparable to Eurythmics that aren't in. Okay.
Yep.
All right,
Kevin, you're up next.
One of the things, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame started doing this, and I'm sorry if I babble and going off each time, but they started doing this, at first it was just these are the artists. Now they started doing that musical excellence and performer award, and it's all this Judas Priest got in, but not just straight up you belong in the Hall of Fame, but you are a musical excellence. I'm like, what the hell? Just put Judas Priest in there, right?
Exactly.
But they also have singles. They have songs. You don't hear about that, but there's songs that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Not saying that those artists that wrote or performed those songs will ever not get in the Hall of Fame, but the songs are in there before the artist is, right? So it's and I would say I didn't really realize it, was looking at it. And part of my reasoning, and then maybe with the Richie Valens thing, because he had one song, and I don't consider Oh Donna, nobody really knows that, but he had one song. So I think there's three of mine, I think are in the rock. They're great artists, and maybe they did a lot more than people know.
Yep.
But to be in the Hall of Fame, we're talking about people should know everything about you. So then I'm going to piss Sean off right here. But there's a man who is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
If you go,
you know more, but nobody else in the world. I'm sorry, nobody else in the world. Okay, 99% of the people on the planet cannot name another song by Percy Sledge.
I love me some Percy Sledge, but yeah, I'm with you. I mean,
he's in there because of When a Man Loves. I mean, that's the sole reason.
Well, and you know, Kevin, that was going to be my album, my overlooked album for 1966, 61.
I think Percy Sledge is a great artist. And he did a lot more than just that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you're right.
But that's not why he's in there. He's in there for that one song and that song only, which I can't
dispute it. I'm a huge fan of that album. Yep.
I mean, if you're looking at that, then the dudes like Los Del Rios should be in there because the Macarena was really good. You know, I'm sorry. You know, I'm just kidding. I mean,
all right, I'll go with my number 2. Okay, so that's Percy Sledge. Okay, my number 2 is, and again, love her, but Dionne Warwick, not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
simple as that. I don't even need to explain it. She's not rock and roll.
Yeah,
zero argument. Craig, back to you.
She's great though.
She is great.
She is great.
She's fantastic.
Her. I mean,
I understand.
I mean, if that's what Friends Are For comes on the radio, I'm listening, and I might even shed a tear or two along the way. But she's not rock and roll. So all right, Craig, number 3 for you.
All right, number 3 for me. I felt like this is pretty easy. I might get some fun. I don't know how you guys feel about these guys, but Love and Spoonful. Really? Love and Spoonful's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
I'd never really thought I would agree with you until, and you know, our friend and my cousin Mark got me listening to Love and Spoonful, and they were like all the cool stuff. Like they were huge before they influenced other bands that people like loved the Love and Spoonful. Other bands like The Dead, you know, were influenced by them, things like that. Right. But then they kind of went away. They kind of became, I don't want to say novelty-esque, but I understand that that it's now they're kind of forgotten. They're a forgotten, you know, nobody like, I can sing you some Love and Spoonful, but I don't have I think they were great, but are they Rock and Roll Hall of Fame worthy? I would not have a problem questioning that, I guess.
I don't have a problem with that either. Elite? No, I don't think so. I agree. All right, Kevin, you're number 3.
All right, Kevin.
All right, I'm gonna go another direction. Well, the Dave Clark 5. I think that they get in because they're a British invasion band, but nobody knows. Like there was a point when like they were like right neck and neck with the Beatles. Who's going to be more popular, Dave Clark 5 or the Beatles? And the Beatles obviously became more popular, but they're not. Sing me 2 songs, right? I mean, I don't think I just think that they're in because they were a British, like an early British invasion band. I think they slipped in there because association more than their wonderful body of work.
Yep, man. I have a hard time arguing that. I mean, that's another really valid one. Okay. I think these lists are great. Okay. I'm going an entirely different direction because almost everything y'all have done, I would say, 5 out of their first 6, not including Eurythmics. The rest of them are earlier, what I call early artists, 50s, 60s, right? Yep. So for me, I'm going to go modern. And when I said that I've listened to this artist in the past week, I listen to him all the time when I'm working out. But Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he's, you know, Kevin, I'm sorry, he's from Michigan. I know you love your guys from Michigan, but Eminem does not deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He's out for me. Yep.
I understand why. I mean, I just, it depends on that goes back to how you look at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is it the music thing or letting everybody in, or is it rock and roll? Right. So I get that.
And the floodgates were opened, you know, once they started letting in non-rock and roll then you almost have to let Eminem in. I'm just saying he's one of the most popular artists in the world.
Right.
I could have picked a lot of other artists in the hip hop genre, but to me, that one was one that I looked at and went, I love Eminem, but there's nothing rock and roll about
If we're
him
letting different genres in, then he should definitely be in there. If we're saying no on that, then I don't have a problem with what you're saying.
Yeah, he's early ballot. You know, maybe in the Hip Hop Hall of Fame, maybe he's not year one because you'd have Sugar Hill Gang and Grandmaster Flash and LL Cool J and Run DMC, but he's probably the next group into the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. I mean, Eminem's amazing, but he's not rock and roll. All right, that's 3 for me. Back to you, Craig. Number 4.
I'm gonna flip flop a couple here. I had them in order, but I'm gonna go outside of this order because you brought up a good point. We haven't done a whole lot of modern. This might be a hot take, but I don't think with you guys it's going to be too much of a hot take. But my number 4 is the White Stripes. I'm sorry. Other than the stadium anthem, Seven Nation Army, and maybe Fell in Love with a Girl, there's not a whole lot from the White Stripes. Now, I will say Jack White himself, with everything he's done in his career, I love
to get in for the musical excellence category.
I love Jack White. I think he's as pure and as cool and as rock and roll. He's as rock and roll as it gets. I love that.
Yeah.
I just don't think the White Stripes did enough to garner the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's fair. The body of work is not there to. I get what you're saying. Yep.
I don't know if we've learned. They may belong in there later, because I don't know if their body of work has stood the test of time enough to make them say, like, right now they already need to be. They already should be in there.
Right.
You guys got good picks. I'm going to change my stuff. No, but yeah. I mean, I can see that. Not an issue with that. But I like the White Stripes, but I can see where you're coming from.
We're picking on Michigan artists right now, Kevin.
I'm going to go right. I won't pick one. I'll skip this one. But okay, there's a band that's in there, and I think maybe they're in there because, and you might love them, and maybe it's because I just don't know them, but I don't think their body of work is as wonderful as the rest of the people in that genre. This genre does get overlooked quite a bit.
Yep.
But I don't know if Roxy Music belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Ooh.
I mean,
that's a hot take.
I know
that's tough. That's a tough one.
I mean, I wasn't going to put them in there. I wasn't going to have them on an out, but are they really? I mean, like we end up putting them in, like they get in lumped in with the, what do we call, prog or art rock, right? Whatever they called it at that time.
Yeah.
But is it?
Yep.
I mean, so influential, but is people look? Are they that? They're not Genesis. Genesis belongs there. You know, they're not. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know if they did enough.
Yeah.
With what they have. It feels they're kind of more like a Velvet Underground getting in there, you know, like nobody, like, did they really? I don't know. I have issues.
All right, this one for me is going to be less controversial because it's. Yeah, I'm okay with that. The more I think about it, yeah. All right, this one for me is just flat out. I'm not even going to have to explain it. She's not rock and roll. Janet Jackson. Her brother, absolutely. Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5, absolutely agree with both of those.
Yeah.
Janet Jackson for me, and you know, she had a lot of great songs, but it's not rock and roll. So that's number 4 for me.
I go back to Kevin's comment. If you're doing and this is exactly why I didn't go with people of other genres, because I felt like we've already talked about that. I think if you rebrand it, then it's a completely different situation. If we're keeping different genres, then she's without a doubt in, but
Yep.
we're not, it's not rock and roll. I have no beef with that whatsoever. Okay. My number 5, I feel like is that just, it cracked me up. I mean, this guy was the brunt of a joke in a famous film that I think we all love, High Fidelity. And this is the same mentality on this artist that Kevin had for Richie Valens, and that's Peter fucking Frampton. And I say it that way. I say it that way in jest, totally humorously.
Right.
My best John Cusack. Really?
Right.
Peter Frampton? Really?
I was reading through like
anybody name
people's
other than
opinions.
one song? Does anybody have anything other than Frampton Comes Alive, a live album?
I was reading through like people's like, on Reddit or Quora, they were talking about like what, who belongs, like people's little arguments of who doesn't belong. And someone said, Peter Frampton, he's got like 3 songs and they all suck. I was just like, I like Frampton, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I really don't mind
That's
him.
fair.
But at the same token, and I like that song, and that's a really good live album, by the way.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
that comment when it was made was just like, it was like the most cliche thing that you could be playing. She could be covering as he walks in.
Yeah.
God, she made it. Does it?
Yeah.
Bonet does a killer version of it. But anyway, so yeah.
My number 5. This is my last one.
Number 5.
Now, I have not picked any that I consider outside of rock and roll because I'm going with the, hey, if you let them in, you got to let certain people in. I don't have a problem with like, NWA and Public Enemy and Madonna and Janet Jackson and whatever, Dolly Parton, whatever. Now, this one really pains me to say because, and again, you said you were picking on Michigan artists, and this artist is actually has like a little statue in the town that I was born and raised. He was not born there, but we claim him because he's from there. And he's a great artist, but he falls into the same Richie Valens, Percy Sledge thing because there's one song and one song only. I mean, okay, there's a couple others, but one song is why he's in there. And it pains me to take him out, but I think his song belongs there, but I don't know that Del Shannon belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he's from Battle Creek, Michigan. And he's like we claim him, right? But
right.
Without Runaway, what really, he's a great one song artist. I know he has a couple, he threw in the Runaway, the whatever, but really he's in there because of that one song. And I think someone needs to do more with their body of work than that one song.
Zero complaints with that. Yep. Totally agree.
All right, so number 5 for me, and then we'll move on.
Yep.
I'm going to follow suit with some of the ones that y'all have said. This is a head scratcher to me. Why is Buffalo Springfield in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Ooh. I mean, see, that falls in that almost, for what it's worth, right? Give me another Buffalo Springfield song. It's more of like who was in the band rather than the band.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I probably would have picked
it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
I can,
All right.
Here we go. All right. Y'all said there's one vote for one that goes back in, right?
At the end or right now?
Right.
So are we doing
you guys made good arguments, though. I'm having trouble. There's no one that I would put back in.
Okay.
I'd throw Bill Haley back in. Bill Haley in the comments just because they were like kind of like towards the birth or whatever, just whatever.
All right. He's back in, so I got to pick another one, right? All right. This is easy. You ready?
Yeah.
Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers.
I almost picked them.
Frankie Lyman and the frickin' Teenagers. I couldn't tell you a single song. I couldn't tell you what they look like. I don't know what era. I'm assuming this is late 50s, early 60s. Don't know.
Right.
But yeah, the fact that it's even a question automatically rules them out of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
It's Why Do Fools Fall in Love? That was Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers.
Okay, cool. Good song.
But again,
All right. So for the
Me-
edification of the listener, we will be going in opposite order this go round. So Sean will start. Kevin stays in the second slot. I am dead last.
All right. Well, everybody, I had to move locations because of something, who knows, the internet. But here goes my number one pick for who's got to be in. And we'll go through these pretty fast, but because they are probably all pretty self-explanatory.
Yep.
But right out of the gate, the one that blows me away, and I know this is where we didn't have any duplicates at all, by the way, in our out list. We're going to have it for the end list. I know.
Oh yeah, right now, if you pick the one,
1,000%.
unless you let me do it. But no,
I'm gonna let you do it. But I'm gonna go with one that I talked about a couple years ago on the Schizophrenic Podcast. I'm gonna go Motley Crue.
Yep.
I mean, in what world
you're doing an if then, right?
Well, 30 years into this thing, how is Motley Crue? I know in the beginning they didn't have enough years under their belt, but they became eligible probably around 1997 or whatever.
Yeah.
How are they not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Now, are they questionable? Maybe, did some questionable things along the way.
Sure. Who cares?
So did Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah.
Ike Turner.
Oh my God. Yeah, he's the king. Right.
I mean, I don't understand a world where Motley Crue is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The number of records they sold, they were the rulers of the biggest genre in music for at least, 4 or 5 years, quote unquote, hair metal. And I know we hate that, Kevin, but that whole early metal, hard rock phase, there was no one bigger than Motley Crue. No one that sold out probably more concerts and sold more records.
Oh, you don't have to sell us. I just watched. Again for the second time. I watched The Dirt.
Oh man,
I freaking love it. I people can say whatever they want. I said, it's just fodder. I'm like, that's exactly what they were. I mean, they were just
the book is even worse.
I mean, I love it. I think it's great. And you walk away from it going, damn, they went through so much. And if you think about how many hits they had and how many times they kind of reinvented it, made me like them better. If that makes sense. So all right.
And that's my biggest, in the past, I guess, and it still is, my biggest problem with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And there's a person that does it all that I can't stand for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We want to talk about the guy, but and same person that runs Rolling Stone, and they both of these things have a bias against one of my favorite forms of music. At least it appears to be that way, right?
Yeah.
I think like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for years did not let heavy hard rock, heavy metal bands in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's almost like they've gone the opposite direction, like the Grammys did, because now they nominate, like you're saying, they messed up, so they nominate Metallica every year now because they know they've screwed up. But like the fact that Sabbath went for 1,000 years before they got in is just wrong, right? I used to say that I would not ever go or do anything with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame until Alice Cooper was inducted. And it was years that he didn't get in there. Finally, I was surprised that it was like 2011 or whatever. But they still, it's like now when they put hard rock, heavy metal in, it's almost like it seems like they're trying, we have to appease these people that are mad. They're just like, they don't even like by putting Judas Priest in, but not as the band, but a musical excellence. What does that even mean? Judas Priest just belongs in there. But anyway,
which I think is going to segue into your first pick.
Number one, there's a band that is one of the biggest bands in the entire world. Talk about the world. If you talk about popularity in other countries, and they've been going for many years, and they're still selling out 40 years. Well, they're still selling out arenas in like Chile and whatever, Brazil, whatever, all around. Of course, the UK, and then of course here. And they've been nominated a couple times, but didn't get in. And they weren't on the ballot this time. And there's those rules, how many times you get nominated and not, I don't know. But it's sick and wrong that Iron Maiden is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And there's just just sick.
I left them off my list because I knew you or Craig would have them.
For sure.
I mean, we're all in 100% agreement.
I was going to bypass them even if I was first because I knew
Ugh.
You know, he's
You
gotta
petitioning
make
for,
it.
and look, I have that same petition. He texted me. He says, you know, we all know what artist is immediately on our list, and I go,
Right.
well, I'll let you run to the hills with that.
Right. I mean,
That's right.
seriously, if you look at like, and yes, they're not like, they didn't, you know, they're not on the radio and had like multiple, many hits, but talk about touring and selling
Influence.
stadiums.
Yep.
I mean,
Influence.
absolutely.
Give me a break. I mean, come on.
All right, Craig, how can you top those two, Crew and Maiden? What are you
Well,
gonna do to top
I mean,
You're going to go a different
you're
direction.
speaking my language with the hard rock and metal, and I totally agree with Kevin. Heavy metal is of the rock and roll genres. Now, if we're talking about like overlooked in general, I would say reggae and jazz, but
Right.
because of all the genres that are in it now. But heavy metal is without a doubt the most overlooked. So I'm going to there, and I do have a couple of artists in here, but I'm going to leave that for you guys. I'm going with one that I was actually stunned is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. His band was, he's not, and that's Phil Collins. How on earth is Phil Collins not? I mean, I would go to say that Phil Collins deserves to be in the Hall of Fame before Genesis does.
He has
done
like 9 top 10 hits.
He's
I
done.
didn't realize that he's not in there. He's not in there.
He's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable that Phil Collins. I couldn't believe it, Craig, when I looked it up. I thought that something's not right here. The guy's had, I think I counted it today. I think he's had 25 top 40 hits, and I think he's had like 5 number ones. He was the biggest. I mean, arguably, he was the biggest selling artist of the 80s between Genesis and solo. But his solo stuff alone, he's probably the biggest selling solo artist of the 80s.
Yeah, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers.
Right. I mean, I think that's a mic drop. We move on because we got more to cover here. There's some other crazy ones coming up. But Craig, I am so with you. Kevin's speechless, and I've never seen him be speechless before, but he actually can't believe Phil Collins is.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at I don't know, same genre, same type of, same time frame. You got like John Mellencamp's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I would just assume that Phil Collins in the Rock and Roll. I mean, there's
absolutely
as popular, or probably Phil's probably more popular.
We're all Bob Seger fans. I love Bob Seger. I would put Phil Collins in before Bob, and that's tough.
Right.
But
yeah,
you look at the impact and what, like you said, he dominated a decade. To me, it's laughable he's not in it.
It was a domination. I'm talking early 80s, 81 was In the Air Tonight. And by the end of the 80s, he was doing the Groovy Kind of Love. And, even into the early 90s, he was having big hits. I mean, In the Air Tonight is one of the most iconic songs ever, even on just that.
Yep.
Based on some of the other ones we talked about earlier, Frankie Lyman, Why Do Fools Fall in Love? I mean, just for In the Air Tonight, ask Mike Tyson what he thinks about whether Phil Collins should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right?
I mean, seriously, ask, even if you're not a Phil Collins fan or rock and roll fan or anything like that, In the Air Tonight. You can't help. Everybody knows that. You know it, right?
Well,
I mean, it's like this. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, he was the drummer for most of Eric Clapton's records in the 80s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He, Philip Bailey, Easy Lover. He played drums for Robert Plant. I mean, the dude, even if he had half of the solo success he's had, the contributions that he's made to other people's albums, Frida, remember that? I Know There's Something Going On. Mm-hmm. He produced that record. Yep. He's just an unbelievable talent and influence. Can't believe he's not in. All right. I've got one. I've had to look back at this. So this is number 2 for me. I just looked back at it again one more time to go, I promise you I did this. I looked at my phone. I was like, am I sure before I say this that they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? How is NXS not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Oh, you already stole one of mine.
Good gosh. Yeah. Well, I have to add another one now because I had Phil Collins on my list. So there you go. I mean, we'll keep moving here, but holy cow. In the early 90s, there was no band bigger in the world than NXS.
Totally.
And the stuff they did in the 80s was so good artistically before they even got commercial with Original Sin and all of those songs. I know you love that song, Craig. Yeah. But in the 90s, they were massive. How they're not in is a real head scratcher. But okay,
absolute travesty. Okay,
Yeah,
Kevin.
back to you, Kevin.
I'm gonna stay in the heavy genre because I just feel like I need to put a couple more in there. But I think Motorhead needs to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's just where I'm at with that.
Yep.
So innovative.
Yep.
I mean, they're not as obvious a choice to me as Crew or Maiden.
Right.
But because they're not as accessible, right? I mean, there's certain
Right.
people that would listen to Motorhead and go, yeah, Ace of Spades, I can't wrap my head around it. The three of us, we go, hell yeah. And
Well, here's the mic drop moment for Megadeth to me. Or not Megadeth, sorry. I threw out one of mine, sorry. For Motorhead for me is the fact that if anybody in Motley Crue or anybody in Iron Maiden saw Lemmy when he was alive, they would bow to him. They would absolutely bow to him. If you saw Lemmy at a bar, you go, oh my God, that's Lemmy. That's how influential they were. So,
yeah. Should we talk to him or just leave him alone? Because he's so cool. Yeah. I mean, they were punk, they were metal, they were thrash. I mean, they were everything. And they did it with some sense of melody that was really hard to pull off when you play that heavy and that fast.
Yep.
I mean, all right. On to you, Craig. You just named one of yours. You want to do that one or do you want to hold?
I did, yeah. I got to do it just because I've already mentioned it, but Megadeth. And some people are going to disagree with this. Here's what I'll say about Megadeth, and talk to anybody that was a fan of theirs. They've always kind of been in the shadow. Dave Mustaine has always been in the shadows of Metallica. And I don't think it's fair, regardless of what happened. I think what he's put out output-wise has stood the test of time. I think they've maintained a better catalog in the long run, consistency-wise, than Metallica has, and that says a lot. I don't think they have a Master of Puppets per se, or a Ride the Lightning maybe. I don't know, Rust in Peace is close. I love that album. But I think from top to bottom, start to finish of their career, they sound as heavy, as vital, and they've never wavered. And if you talked about anybody in the metal community, they are one of the power 5, 6, 7 bands, legacy artists in that genre. So I love Megadeth, and I think they should be in.
And I
agree.
I don't disagree. I mean, I understand maybe it's the anti-metal thing, but if you ask me, and I don't want to blow, maybe I won't mention them, but I think the big four of thrash, I think all four of those bands should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's one that you might not put in there just because they didn't have the maybe.
I would, but yeah, I know
popularity, but they're probably my favorite of the bunch, right? But
yeah,
but I think all of them should be based on influence and things like that. But anyways,
all right.
I'm going to go a little different this time, but because there are other ones like him in, I'm just gonna rattle this off, and you will know very quickly where I'm headed with this. AC/DC Highway to Hell, AC/DC Back in Black, 404, Def Leppard High and Dry, AC/DC For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, Def Leppard Pyromania, The Cars.
He's not in the Ahmet Ertegun. He didn't win. He's not in with that one yet.
How is Robert John Mutt Lange the most successful producer? And we didn't even get to the Shania Twain years. I mean, Shania Twain was, no one knew who she was. And I'm not saying, she was amazing on her own. She's beautiful. She's got a great voice. She picked great songs or wrote great songs. But Mutt Lange was a hit maker. He was beyond a hit maker. He made records that I don't even know what it goes to. 2 of the top 10 best-selling records of all time were produced by him. How's the guy not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I mean, just we'll move on. But
I love it. To me, I think based off the criteria of what we've seen of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the artists and the producers and the side musicians and the event host and stuff like that are in there now, it's criminal that he's not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, number 3 for you, Kev.
Whatever they should give him the Ahmet Ertegun, she should get that one, for the people that
Yep.
For sure. All right.
He made a lot of people rich.
Yeah. I'm thinking a band that I'm not a huge fan of. I don't dislike them, but I don't know. I know they didn't sell millions of albums, but if you talk to anybody in a certain genre that loves a certain genre of music, they're always influenced by this band, and that's King Crimson.
Yeah.
King Crimson is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I just think that's based on influence alone. I think that's wrong.
I can't
Hard to argue that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can't disagree. I think that's a very underappreciated style of music, and they flat out. I'm not saying they invented it, but they put that on the map. So yeah, I like it.
all right, Craig.
All right, I'm waffling between the two of these. I've gone big with one. One's really, to me, just absolutely obvious, and then the other one, I'm going to go obvious. And his band, once again, is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but he's not. Would not say that he should be in before his band, because his band was absolutely epic. But how the hell is Sting not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
He was on my short list as well. I have him.
I mean, this guy.
I didn't realize he wasn't. I just assumed that he is.
This guy had a lot. And if you think about now, like if he were to do something, if he were to put out an album now, people would still pay attention. He still has influence, and he collaborated, and he's done some collaborations with modern artists and stuff too that I think are really cool. But once again, another artist that in the mid to late 80s and really throughout the 90s, that guy charted on the radio consistently. And I don't get it. Like, you talk to anybody, he's one of those, like Bono, you talk to people about frontmen. He's one of the most iconic frontmen in the world of any band. And then he went on and had his solo career, success wise, and as far as what he grossed, probably made him more money than what he had with the Police.
Yeah. The other thing that's surprising is when you think about what they look at for the criteria to let somebody in, not only was he commercially successful, not only is he famous, all those things, but he did a lot of stuff. He went into world music.
Yep.
He didn't just stay in one area. He had no boundaries. If you listen to his solo records, there's a lot of other influences in there. He didn't just stick with a pop formula. He was all over the place. And I think that's another reason why it's really surprising he's not in. I mean, he's one of the most famous. Well, I mean, he goes by one name. I mean, he's one of the most famous rock personalities ever. He's probably in the top 30 most famous people in the rock world. I mean, yeah, I agree. Okay. Sit back to me. Number 4. Yeah.
Yep.
This is another surprising one that I had to look at multiple times. How is Boston not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Didn't they kind of invent the rock and roll, arena sound?
I didn't know Boston was not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I'm going to look it up one more time. What if I'm wrong?
No, they're not in there.
Yeah, I didn't think they were. I've looked it up twice today. Boston is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, their first 2 albums are 2 of the best-selling records in the history of rock and roll.
Absolutely. You could go to a Hi-Fi Buys, and if you wanted to test the stereo system, probably at least 50% of the time somebody's going to play the first Boston record.
Yeah. Oh, for you younger people, Hi-Fi Buys was a store where they sold stereo and hi-fi equipment back in the 90s, 80s, man. 90s, early 2000s.
I'm just assuming that everybody's Yeah.
I'm with you, dude. So Boston for me, number 4. Okay, Kevin.
Kevin,
I'm gonna pick a not controversial one, but so maybe I should save this for the if then. I might say, do we all get an if then, or you're just if then?
Sure. I've got a list of about 10 of them, but go for it.
I got an if then. I'll save it, I guess. But I'm going influence, and if you put certain individuals in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I believe that John Prine should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, I love it.
I love John Prine.
Yeah.
Dude, that is such a great pick.
Yeah, I would say influentially, that guy. We don't. I think his influence far outweighs his catalog. Right. Honestly, if you think about it. Yeah,
one of the greatest
based off of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the way it is now, 100%.
Yes.
Yep. That's a great one.
Love it.
All right, Craig, back to you.
All right. Well, this is the one that I skipped over, and another one of those bands that, in their heyday, did not probably have the popularity and the impact that they have now. Maybe I wasn't into them then. I was a little young, but the Smiths from an
I had them on my list. So yeah, totally.
from an influential standpoint, it's hard to get more. It's hard to find another band that has as much influence, especially, I like a lot of indie rock. I do. And I would say a vast majority of the time, it's like, oh, I was influenced by this band, the Smiths. Yeah, they just throw it out like it's common knowledge. Everybody's influenced by the Smiths, right? So yeah, I mean, another one that I think maybe what Morrissey's done here recently is tarnish their reputation a little bit. I don't know, and I do love some of his solo stuff too. But I just think about how timeless the Smith stuff is. I think it's stayed the test of time, and I think just influence wise, it's hard to top them. So yeah, Smiths.
That's a great. I thought they were not on my list, but I thought about them just before we started. I thought about putting them on my list. I'm with you. So I'll segue that into what I'll call there are some major areas where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame are missing, and I would say that's 80s British music.
Yep,
Smith being a great example of that.
Yep.
Heavy metal, hard rock would be number 2.
Yep.
Number 3 would be anything in the South, for the most part. I mean, you think other than the Allman Brothers, there are so many bands that have been ignored by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, country and what I call Southern rock.
Yeah.
The other genre I would say that's been ignored quite a bit is arena rock. Boston being an example.
Yep.
And this last one that I'm going to mention, Kevin, you're going to love this one. And I think I know why he's not in there. He's so controversial. But my gosh, if we're talking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Ted Nugent, not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When it was invented, he might have been one of the first people I would have thought of as, oh yeah, Nuge will be in there in the first couple of years. Ted Nugent's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, crazy.
Yeah.
All right, Kev, back to you.
I was trying to think where I wanted to go. I have so many listed down here. I've thought different directions. Okay, I'm going to pick one that. Well, all right. People think they're like something you would think of them as too new. They actually were nominated this year, won the fan vote, but didn't get in.
Oh, okay.
Fish.
I saw that.
Ooh.
I did see that they were inductees or not nominated this year. Yeah. Yep.
But and you think but they've been eligible. You look at some of these bands that are eligible. I'm sure they'll get in there later, but they've been eligible for like 12 years or something like that. So you start letting in like Dave Matthews Band's in there, right? So you start doing things like that, and you talk about just one of the biggest touring acts of all time or whatever. I mean, people follow them. It's like a religion, right? It's like, I think they need to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Just my 2 cents.
I like it.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan, but dude, they are about as
I'm not a fan.
Prolific.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of it.
It's hard to argue.
I can't dispute it. I can't.
Yeah.
I'll say this.
I think they'll get in.
I've been watching the show recently. It's John Mulaney, Everybody's Live. It used to be Everybody's in LA. It's on Netflix. It's hilarious. He had them doing Fish, and it was Fish doing Seinfeld. So Trey Anastasia was Jerry. One of the guitarists was Kramer. It was freaking hilarious. And awesome. I thought that's so cool. He's had a lot of he's had a plethora of really good artists come on. And to me, it was a sign of respect. Like, this band has been doing it for a long time. And they had the sense of humor to pull it off. It was awesome.
That's great.
All right. So fifth and final, and I'm so shocked, Sean, that you didn't pick one of these 2 bands. And in fact, I'm going to give you a choice, A or B.
I'll go B.
Okay, cool. Yeah. B is Oasis.
I had them on my list.
And I you know how I feel about Blur. I love Blur. I'm more of a Blur fan than Oasis. How do you get more iconic than Oasis. Oasis just announced that they are going to be touring this upcoming summer. I mean, the internet went off the rails, absolutely off the rails. There's podcasts dedicated to just the conversation of them touring.
Yeah. Nebworth. It shut down the phone system when they in England back in the 90s when they announced they were doing those shows.
You talked about British rock. You talked about how it's just, this is a prime example, probably one of the biggest bands out of Britain ever. And that's a huge thing. Think about the hits that they've had on the radio, that if you hear it now, you go to a pub, you're sitting in a restaurant, you're out with some friends, that comes on the car, you're singing out loud. Oasis, they were kings. They were absolute kings, and they're still relevant to this day. Like I said, they're touring. Every single city is sold out in minutes. That to me is a sign of a band that's worthy of the Rock and Roll, because they've had it for so long. Yeah.
I love that choice. I had them on my list. Okay, before we move on to the if then, who was your other? If I would have said A, who was that?
The Replacements.
Well, I know. I had them too.
Influence. It's just influence. It's the same to me as the Smiths. I mean, I would say they're equally, if not maybe, I don't know. It's tough. I think they're getting more influential nods now. But yeah.
That's like, I mean, they're starting to do weird stuff like the whole Joy Division / New Order. They didn't get in, right? But it's like, why do you even do that? One,
they're not the same band.
We can talk about how I feel about Joy Division, but influence, they should be in there too, right? But like
I don't think any of us are Joy Division fans. I'm not. I think we've talked about it before. I've owned everything. I've owned Closer and Unknown Pleasures, and I respect when I see somebody wearing their T-shirt, and I think it's cool, and I respect the influence. I've tried; it's just not my thing. I'm more of a New Order fan, but the fact that they would get lumped together to me is like, really, that's weak, in my opinion. I think
totally agree. All right, I'm going to quickly rattle off this. We can either call it if then or if why not. What do y'all like better? Because I'll say it each time.
If
okay,
then.
cool. Go for it.
If then. All right. If Joan Jett, then Lita Ford / Runaways. I mean, Lita Ford to me changed the game and showed that women could absolutely rock out. And so did the Runaways.
Yep.
All right. If Lou Reed, then Graham Parsons. I mean, did anyone he basically started an entire genre of music with country rock. I mean, the Byrds became a country rock band largely based on Graham Parsons. Okay. If White Stripes, then Pixies. How are the Pixies not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
We're at the very last on my list. Yep.
Yeah. If Radiohead, then Wilco. Has there been any band consistently over the past 30 years that, especially that 4 or 5 album run that Wilco had? I'm not saying they're as innovative as Radiohead, but they're pretty damn close. Yeah. They're just the American version to me.
Yeah.
Okay. If Stevie Nicks, then Kenny Loggins. I thought Kenny Loggins was probably in, but he's not.
Yeah.
And that was a shock to me.
Like missing
okay.
Kenny.
Yeah. I mean, as far as hits go, he probably had as many hits as Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks already got with Fleetwood Mac, absolutely deserves it. And I'm not saying she doesn't deserve it. None of these I'm saying they all deserve to be there, but it's just questionable to me that Stevie Nicks could be in and Kenny Loggins isn't. Okay, Here's another one. I picked this one, but I'll say it. If Buffalo Springfield, then Flying Burrito Brothers, because Flying Burrito Brothers were so influential, and they never got popular, but they really, along with Graham Parsons being a part of that band, really, if they didn't invent country rock, they fine-tuned it to the point where everyone else picked it up and ran with it. Okay. If Dr. John, then Little Feat. How the hell is Little Feat not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
They're just one of the greatest rock. Jimmy Page said in 1975 Rolling Stone interview, they were his favorite American rock band. Go listen to Waiting on Columbus alone, and you can't take the needle off. Amazing. Yeah. Okay. If Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, where is Rick Rubin? Rick Rubin I mean, what he's done for rock and roll with Tom Petty, Johnny Cash, all the production work he did. But oh, by the way, he started this thing called Def Jam Records. I mean, how is Rick Rubin not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Okay, if Mary J. Blige, then Shania Twain, because Shania Twain sold more records than probably anyone, I think, in the 90s. I think she was the most successful artist of the 90s. She's not rock and roll, but neither is Mary J. Blige.
Right.
So that one's a head scratcher. You mentioned Richie Valens earlier, and I think he had a huge influence because he was probably one of the first Latin American rock and roll guys.
And that's probably why he's. I mean, like I said, all the people I don't have a problem with anyone being in there, but yeah.
But where's Los Lobos? Los Lobos should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they probably have done more to influence rock and roll, especially with their heritage. I mean, they did so much to influence rock and roll. I don't know why Los Lobos is not in. Okay, if Willie Nelson, there's this guy named Garth Brooks. If we're going to put country artist in there, Garth Brooks is, what is he, the second or third most all-time biggest selling artist in the history of music?
Yeah,
total myth there. And then finally, I'll wrap up, and this one will make Craig smile ear to ear. If Velvet Underground, then Big Star. Because Big Star, just like Velvet Underground, influenced a ton of bands. And they may not have sold any records, but neither did Velvet Underground. So I'm putting Big Star in.
Yeah,
all right, that's my list.
Big Star, Los Lobos, all those were so tough to not even be secondary mentions. But yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Just based off influences alone. Kevin, did you have if then?
I have an if then. So if Dionne Warwick, why not the Carpenters?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
So good.
Talk about number of albums that, I mean, how many top 10 hits did the Carpenters have? I mean, it's incredible.
That's unreal. To me, I would say if ABBA, then why not the Carpenters? Would be.
I have a bunch of that I still need to go in. I don't have
anything against ABBA. Mine would be, I'm going to use one of mine that should be out. Is if the White Stripes, then why not the Black Keys?
Oh yeah.
Because to me, the Black Keys, they're still a band. They've been around for about the same amount of time, maybe a little bit later. But you want to talk about influence. I think they've had as much influence. I mean, think about the hits that the Black Keys have had. So I don't know. Those are the two that was the one that came to mind for me. And then the minute you mentioned the Carpenters,
right,
I was like, wow, it's kind of shocking to me that they're not in the Hall.
Grandmaster Flash. What about Africa Bambaataa? So it's the same.
Yeah.
You got to go the same genre, same time. And there's some that I don't know if I could pick the if then, but I don't know. If Metallica, then why not Slayer? Sorry, Slayer needs to be in there.
Yeah.
Another one, I don't know but name a producer that's in there.
There's a couple. Tom Dowd is in there, and he's worthy. I mean,
then why not Brian Eno?
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
Right,
Quincy's in there.
He was on my list. Yeah.
I think I don't know who the if is, but Devo needs to be in there for influence based. That's alone.
Somebody said, if for only the fact that they're from Ohio, is the Devo should be from Ohio.
Seriously, no, that's a great point. Well, Kraftwerk is in there. Give me a break. If Kraftwerk is going to be in,
that's what was going to be my
yeah. Devo should be. All right, real quickly, I'm going to rattle off a list of bands or artists that are not in there that were on my list, and they're probably the same ones you have, but these blew me away that are not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Toto, Jethro Tull, Jane's Addiction, Alice in Chains, Greg Allman as a solo artist, unbelievable. America, Badfinger, B-52s, Black Crowes, Iggy Pop, Styx, Smashing Pumpkins, Stone Temple Pilots, Jay Giles Band, Foghat, John Fogerty, The Cult, Sammy Hagar, Don Henley, Billy Idol, who you just saw, Kevin, and Robert Plant. Oh, and then just on the very end of this, George Jones, because he started out, he was more of a rockabilly guy. I'm surprised he's not in. And then one guy that I think is a wild card in all this, but it's more career achievement, not career achievement, but it's spread out across all the bands. At some point, if they open their eyes up to British rock, Paul Weller has to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Between the Jam,
like Todd
Style
Rundgren's
Council.
in, why not Paul Weller, right? That's kind of like a maybe if then, something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you said Jay Giles, you got Supertramp. I think you have Huey Lewis and the News. I think, hey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's another one that if the Eurythmics, then why not Huey Lewis and the News?
And if you're going to go with influence and things like, if you're going to put people in like Willie Nelson that aren't there, how about like Fela Kuti? So, because you talk about huge somebody, if you start going into, if you're going into other genres, then open it up and go with like people that were like, or you got like, it's like they put Bob Marley and Jimmy Cliff in and then stopped at reggae, right? There's like, what about like Peter Tosh and what about the rest of the Wailers?
Peter Tosh even being a Wailer alone. That's just it. There's so many reggae artists that were, nobody's really going to have the influence that Marley had. They're not, and I get it. Marley's amazing, but there's so many reggae artists out there that if you really knew the genre,
Lee Scratch Perry, he's not in it.
Lee Scratch Perry, nope. Lee Scratch Perry's not there. Israel Vibration, Culture, Burning Spear. The list goes on and on of artists that, some of them are still doing it to this day. They're still doing it now. It's crazy. To me, it's crazy when I think about how long they're.
The Meters aren't in there. That's another band.
Yeah.
The Meters are not.
Yeah, and you want to talk about it. There's a genre that we listen to on a regular basis is instrumental soul, instrumental funk. We're big coal mine records. The Meters is a huge, huge influence on every one of those bands.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost in some categories, they want to check a box maybe because Willie Nelson, I love Willie Nelson.
Love him.
But
yeah, me too.
I can't put him before Merle Haggard if I'm talking just great artistry through the years. Yeah. I know some people would disagree with me, and that's fine. But Willie was a popular pick because he kind of, everybody loves Willie, right? He's kind of that guy that everybody, no matter what kind of genre you listen to the most, everybody loves Willie. That's probably not the case with Merle Haggard.
Right.
But Merle Haggard and George Jones,
right.
To me, if you're going to have Willie and Johnny in, you got to start looking at some of those other guys.
Yeah,
and it's the same argument.
There's another genre to me that, and I know we're running long, so we'll cut this here pretty soon. But there's a long list of artists in the country realm that through that pop phase, and he was definitely a part of that pop phase, but he was also a troubadour, and that's George Strait. I think George Strait.
Oh man,
I honestly think if you're going to put a lot of these other artists in there, I think if you put Garth Brooks in there, you got to put George Strait in there.
And Garth would tell you that.
Yeah.
We just need to make a popular Hall of Fame, music Hall of Fame, or have everybody separate. Let's bring it all together because it's like it gets stupid when you start putting like just two people from a genre or whatever, and then
and that's what they're doing unfortunately right now.
The sad ending, well, I'll say this as a last point, is talked about Graham Parsons earlier, what he did with Flying Burrito Brothers, what he did with the Byrds. He was also influential behind the scenes with the Rolling Stones when they shifted to that country sound.
Yep.
He is too rock and roll for the Country Music Hall of Fame and too country for the rock and roll. He's in neither.
Right.
Which
he's in no man's land. It sucks.
He's in no man's land. What a travesty that guy, he died at 26 years of age, probably would have done, tons of stuff, but he's stuck in no man's land. So anyway. This was a lot of fun, guys.
This is awesome. Yeah, this is something that Kevin and I threatened. We threatened to do this. How many times that we would say, we could get into the no.
I could go on forever.
Finally, Sean's like, we're doing the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's like, we have to have Kevin on this episode.
Have to. I'm so glad we had Kevin on. All right, well, it's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for bearing with us. Hopefully, if you've made it through 50 episodes or not, if you're brand new, we really appreciate it. And we'll be back for 50 more and another year.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care.
Take it easy.